Across the six Bayverse installments, one of the most outstanding issues that carries over across multiple movies is the shuffling of background Autobots with little to no explanation of their appearances or subsequent disappearances. While the former is at least given some grace with Optimus's messages at the end of the first two movies, calling out to his comrades hidden among the stars, the bigger question still remains. What happened to so many of these Autobots introduced in the first two sequels, but were never seen again after the Battle of Chicago? Today, we're diving into what happened to these Transformers after Transformers 3. Let's jump right into it. To keep things simple, let's just list out all of the confirmed Autobots to have survived the end battle. Obviously, we have Optimus Prime, Bumblebee, Ratchet, then we have Sideswipe, Roadbuster, Leadfoot, Topspin, and Dino/Mirage. Also worth noting, while he's not directly involved in the Battle of Chicago, Jolt is another Autobot who was part of this team. He's completely absent from the movie. We are going to count that in this case. So Jolt was killed off before the fact, and also worth noting a couple bots like Trench, the Dinobots, Willie and Brains, and just a handful of others. Those guys are who either come in down the line or are set up to be out of the picture for a reason, or were just never key pieces to the Autobot team to begin with. We're just going to be covering the main bots that were established to be with the team, so let's dive into the fate of all these bots from the moment they leave the screen in Chicago to the ending of the last night. Starting off with probably the simplest, Optimus Prime. Post the Battle of Chicago, Optimus delivers the final monologue standing amidst the ruins of Chicago, solidifying his leadership role in the face of the strongest adversity they've fought yet. Between Dark of the Moon and Age of Extinction, tie-in material and other Age of Extinction prequel comics imply that Optimus stayed to help rebuild and protect humanity. However, the public's perception quickly was shifted, sowing this distrust that led into what we see in Age of Extinction. Obviously, there's quite a jump from the Autobots literally saving the entire planet to the point where they're labeled as just as bad as the Decepticons and all of them need to be expelled from the planet, and to the point where there's literally a massive cash reward if you can even point the government in the direction of any of the remaining Transformers. Early in Age of Extinction, Optimus has gone into hiding after a wave of human-led Autobot exterminators via Cemetery Wind teamed up with Lockdown on his hunts. He's badly damaged and disguised himself as an old rusted truck when Cade Yeager stumbles upon him in a rundown Texas movie theater where things are sold out of. When he is revived, we get the sense that in Mexico City, Optimus was not alone, and he likely lost some of the remaining survivors who were with him. So the question is, which were they? We'll get to that later. By the last night, Optimus has been corrupted into Nemesis Prime by Quintessa, then returns to help save Earth. At the end of the last night, he is redeemed and reunited with the surviving Autobots, and once again looking to a time of rebuilding and reconciliation, while unbeknownst to him, their greatest threat yet lurks beneath their very feet. Of course, we never got the conclusion to that, but that's Optimus. On to the next is Bumblebee. We see him just like Optimus in Dark of the Moon's closing shots, standing among both his allies and the human friends in the wreckage of Chicago. He likely remained active right at Optimus' side through this entire situation. As we get to Age of Extinction, we see that Bumblebee is still active and functioning as a key Autobot operative, actually leading the Autobots in this time of disorder with Optimus missing in action. While things are certainly on rough territory, Bumblebee does keep Hound, Drift, and Crosshairs together for the most part. Moving into the last night, it's revealed that Bumblebee actually fought in World War II and has been on Earth for quite a bit longer than we would have thought. And later in the last night, Bumblebee plays arguably the most important role of anyone, being the one to snap Optimus out of Quintessa's mental snare by finally using his voice for the first time definitively since the first movie. By the end of the last night, like Prime, he stands ready to face their future together. Now we can get into more of the speculation side of a lot of these characters, starting off with a fan favorite and a bot I personally wish had gotten a lot more screen time across all of the movies he was in, Sideswipe. In one of the final panning shots at the end of Dark of the Moon, we clearly see Sideswipe surviving the battle standing next to Ratchet. Unfortunately, there are no confirmed appearances after Dark of the Moon, Nothing in the movies at all in Age of Extinction or The Last Knight. This leads to many fan theories, ranging from his death off-screen, falling victim to a cemetery wind hunt, going deeper into cover around the world to avoid detection, which honestly is just as likely considering at this point he would have been one of Optimus's more trusted bots, or finally, he may have been captured and dissected, much like Ratchet at the hands of Lockdown. A grim fate indeed. Tie-in media like the Age of Extinction prequel comic does not confirm his fate, but his absence during the dire circumstances of Age of Extinction and the Mexico City leading up to it implies he may have been lost in this early purge, potentially being one of the bots who fell in the ambush in Mexico City. Personally though, I think Sideswipe unfortunately is a victim of either Cemetery Wind or Lockdown, and Sideswipe unfortunately is more than likely dead in the Bayverse. Sideswipe was a character who was so well established to the point where, although we really didn't get to see him really shine too much solo on the screen, it was very well established that he had a rapport with not only Optimus and having his trust, as he's one of the first ones Optimus is giving orders to during the Battle of Chicago when they're pinned down by Shockwave. He calls Sideswipe out to help him patrol, but Ironhide as well, as earlier in the movie when Ironhide goes out right before his soon-to-be death at the hands of Sentinel, but he goes out to protect Sentinel's arrival at the Nest facility, and Sideswipe and him show down with the Dreads. And again, really would have loved to see more of Sideswipe, but because of all this that we do know about him, he would have been on screen. He would have shown up if he was still alive. That's where I'm coming from. If Sideswipe was out there when Optimus sent out his distress call, he would have shown. He would not be one of those bots who would have stayed in the far reaches of the world, like maybe Trench or some of the other wreckers who were battle damaged, as we'll get to. But Sideswipe would be a bot who would be one of the first to answer any call from Optimus Prime. This takes us to Ratchet. Unfortunately, Ratchet will be a quick one here because we know exactly what happened to him. We saw Ratchet suffer one of the most brutal fates as a victim of Cemetery Wind, blowing off his limbs before Lockdown was able to swoop in for the final kill, with Ratchet staying loyal to the very end and a true friend to Optimus Prime, refusing to give up the location of his leader. Ratchet's death is used as a narrative turning point in Age of Extinction to show the brutality of the humans' betrayal, making it unlikely any other Dark of the Moon survivors escaped without going underground. Ratchet was one of the bots there from the very beginning, and he even says this, pleading with them, that we were your allies, before he understandably turns bitter and has to defend himself with some lethal force. But alas, it's too little too late, and Ratchet falls. Now, to throw these guys together, we have Roadbuster, Leadfoot, and Topspin. Starting off with the easiest to explain, we have Leadfoot. All of these guys, of course, are alive at the end of Dark of the Moon, but we do see confirmation of Leadfoot's untimely demise early on in Age of Extinction. Cade is able to hack into one of KSI's drones, and he's able to show the replay footage of Cemetery Wind taking down Leadfoot on a roadside ambush. While it cuts before the film officially shows his death, official tie-in material like the playing cards do confirm that he was killed off in that scene we got to see. This makes the sightings of his fellow wreckers in Cuba all the more intriguing. While Leadfoot may be easy to explain, this brings us to both Roadbuster and Topspin. Again, the two of them are alive at the end, and we actually do know where they supposedly are, all the way to the last night, and that's in Cuba with Agent Seymour Simmons. However, when we see Topspin, supposedly, his design is quite inconsistent, as the head resembles Leadfoot's, but the body is Topspin. To break the fourth wall a little bit here, because I know people will be talking about it in the comments, the real reason why this is simple laziness, and the fact that they never rigged Topspin to speak in the first movie, or should I say, the previous movie he appeared in. So they reused a head that they did have the assets for to make it look like he could talk, and they just mix-mashed and created an amalgamation of a new wrecker. Jumping back into a possible in-universe explanation though, I guess you could go with the fact that the wreckers could have interchanged their parts because they were, I guess, brothers, and in order to survive, they did what they had to do because something happened to Topspin and Leadfoot was already taken out. So I guess to honor their brother and to keep him going and to help Topspin, he took his head. However you want to spin it, but there is another brief shot that's so unclear. Basically, you can see the silhouette of two Transformers playing volleyball on the beach in this same kind of Cuba area, one of them being this Topspin bot, so the other one is more than likely Roadbuster. So while Leadfoot is dead, his head lives on with his other two Wrecker brothers. This brings us to Dino / Mirage. Dino, like the others, is in fact alive at the end of Dark of the Moon, but unfortunately he never again appears in the films. Breaking the fourth wall again, the most likely reason for his lack of a return is because of his direct licensing issues with Ferrari and the inability to retain that car, but again, stupid excuse. They easily could have just made him swap vehicles, as we've seen with plenty other Transformers throughout these movies. But being that Mirage was this deep cover agent, as we got to see a lot more of in the Dark of the Moon tie-in game, again, it's not canon, but we got to see a lot more of the cool aspects of that character expanded in that game, I think it's a little bit underhanded and disrespectful to what we do see of Mirage to assume that he would be easily killed off in the Purge right after, at least without putting up a fight. But I actually think it's more likely that Mirage or Dino is one of the ones who would have gone into deep cover somewhere else in the world. And actually, there's some fan theories and some kind of tie-in, not official stuff, but something that was hinting at that also with the other bots down in Cuba was Mirage, and that he survived down there as well, seeking refuge with Simmons, as it was known that Simmons was harboring some of the surviving Transformers that were tapped out of the fight, but still had a safe place to chill. This could explain why he wasn't with Optimus's group in Age of Extinction or The Last Night, but again, kind of like what I mentioned with Sideswipe and why I think Sideswipe is 100% dead, I also don't think Dino would sit on the sidelines if Optimus did call for help. So, unfortunately, Dino probably is dead as well, but he's the one bot I think could really have a logical explanation for if they do decide to continue the Bayverse with Bay 100% now confirmed to be coming back. I would love to see Mirage get picked up again off the streets as a character that certainly could be out there roaming Earth. To put a cap on it though, alive and present by the end of The Last Night, we have Optimus Prime, Bumblebee, Topspin, or some kind of Wrecker amalgamation in Cuba, and Roadbuster. Confirmed dead, we have Ratchet and Leadfoot. Missing or presumed dead, Sideswipe and Mirage. But again, this could also mean possibly surviving but in hiding, again, Sideswipe or Mirage. But from what we do know of them, the likely explanation is their sparks are offline. What do you guys think though? I would love to know what your opinions are in the comments down below, because this is certainly a topic that opens the door wide open for fan speculation. And considering that we're getting more and more confirmation from official Hollywood reporters, we got it from Deadline a couple days ago, so this is pretty much set in stone. Bay is returning, not 100% to direct, but a lot of arrows are pointing in that direction. So if Michael Bay does return to the directing role, do you want to see him continue the Bayverse, reboot the Bayverse, or do something all new and all different? Because I don't think we're going to be having Michael Bay continuing the Rise of the Beast continuity. But let me know in the comments down below, what do you think happened to all of these Autobots after Dark of the Moon? Because we sure as hell don't see them in the future of Age of Extinction and The Last Night. Likes, dislikes, anything is appreciated. Let me know in the comments down below. And until next time, peace.